to the online session for the topic name pumps, in which consists of centrifugal pumps and reciprocating pumps. As you are well aware, like right now the pandemic which is going on, the COVID-19, there will be no more the classroom lectures. So on this we are shifting now onto the online class sessions. So on this we are starting you with the first topic, which is the pumps, which is the left out topic of the unit number 3. Previously we have gone through the hydraulic turbines on the class which we have done earlier. So we are left with the pumps of the unit number 3. So we'll continue and we'll finish off the session in the online. So on this, the pumps, the content which is we are going to learn for today's class is like definition and difference between the hydraulic pumps and the hydraulic turbines in the pumps, and the classification of pumps, working principle of centrifugal pump, losses and efficiency of pumps, heads of centrifugal pumps, advantages of centrifugal pumps over reciprocating, priming in centrifugal pumps, cavitation and NPCH and reciprocating pumps, as well as the classification of reciprocating pumps, working of reciprocating pump, difference between the centrifugal and reciprocating pump, and operation difficulties in pumps. So let's begin with the first one, the basic definition and the difference between your pump and as well as the hydraulic turbines. Basically, a pump is a device, as you know, which actually converts your mechanical energy into your hydraulic energy. As the case for the hydraulic turbines which we have learned was the reverse case of your centrifugal pumps, in which actually it converts your hydraulic energy into your mechanical energy. So the basic definition of the pump is nothing but it is a convenience in which it provides energy to your fluid in a fluid system, and it assists to increase your pressure energy or kinetic energy or both of the fluid by converting the mechanical energy. So this is the simple or the basic definition of your pump, as we know. So what is the basic difference between a pump and a turbine is like, pump is basically a power absorbing device, as we know turbine is a power producing device. So from, if you basically go from a hydraulic point of view, so in that former which actually takes place from higher pressure side to the lower pressure side, whereas as in a pumps it takes place from your lower pressure to higher pressure one. Okay, that is the major one. And as well as you know, in the turbine there is a flow accelerated, whereas in the pump as the flow has been decelerated. This is the common basic difference between your pumps and as well as the hydraulic turbines. As well aware, you know, the hydraulic turbines are basically used in power producing devices where you have your hydroelectric power stations, as well as when you go with the pumps, it is commonly used in all industrial purposes as well as in a home needs, in which if suppose if you want to lift your water from your ground level onto the top level, you basically go with the centrifugal pumps. So there are some other applications of your reciprocating pumps also. We'll go through the different topics in the coming one. Okay, so let's move on with the next one, like classification of pumps. So coming to the classifications, as we have different classifications, the classifications are like based on the type of your pump, where you have your rotordynamic pump and positive displacement pump. You go with the rotordynamic pump, you have your radial flow pump, axial flow pump and mixed flow pump, which is already you have learned about the type of the direction of your flow in case of your hydraulic turbine, where you have your radial flow, axial flow and mixed flow, in which the amount of the the direction of your flow of water which is coming from your turbine, which comes and hits radially onto your vanes, which we say it as a radial flow turbines. In that case of your example of your radial flow turbines was the Francis turbine. And when you go with the axial flow one, where the flow of your water is exactly parallel to your shaft, but that's example of your axial flow shaft turbines was a Kaplan turbine. The mixed flow is nothing but the which you have the entering of your flow in a radial direction and exiting of your flow in an axial direction, whereas a modern Francis turbine was an example of that. In a similar case, you also have your pumps, in that the flow of your direction which you have, based on that we say it as rotordynamic pumps. Okay, so again you have another type which we say it is a positive displacement pump. So in that basic again you have some more classification in case of your positive displacement pump, which you that also based on the few classifications like type, based on the type of casing, the working head, and the liquids which you are going to handle. So in that, if you have your different types of casing, where you have your volute casing as well as vortex casing, and the turbine pump or your diffusion pump, will learn when you go on through the working principle of your centrifugal pump, where you have your different case types of your casing. There I will explain you what is the different kinds of casings which we have in that. Okay. And next you have your, based on the type of your head, as in the initial stages of your turbines itself, we have learned what is head and what is net head, what is gross head, and all those things, where I will just recapitulate of the topic of what we have learned in the earlier classes of your hydraulic turbines, where head is nothing but the amount of the liquid which is generally present on your turbine, is nothing but head. In that you have your net head and the gross head. Net head is nothing but the amount of liquid which is used for your production of your power. We say it is net head, and the gross head is nothing but the difference of your section head as well as to your head loss due to friction. We say it as a gross head. So these are all the basic things which I learned. So in that, based on the kinds of heads, you have your low lift centrifugal pumps, medium and high head. In the case of your turbines also, you have your low head, medium and high head, where the case of your low head was an example of your Kaplan, medium head was the Francis, and high head was with the Pelton wheel turbine. So in this also you have the similar kinds, where you have, based on your head, you have your low centrifugal, in which your head is less than 15 meter, that comes under your centrifugal pumps, and if your head is on to your 40 meter one, then it comes under the medium lift centrifugal pumps, and if your head is higher enough, then you go with the high lift centrifugal pumps. So that is one of the classification of your positive displacement based on the working head. And next you have, based on the kind of your liquid which you are going to handle, where you have a closed, semi or open. Okay. And the similar case where you have your Pelton wheel as an open one, where you have your energies which is generally present on that case was due to the only kinetic energy which is generally present. And where you go with the Francis turbine, the casing is different from your Pelton wheel turbine, where it is a closed casing, where you have your guide vanes which is fixed. In a similar case, you have your liquids which are going to handle is a closed one, semi or maybe open impellers. So impeller is nothing but the kind of the blade which actually rotates in your pump, in which this, due to the centrifugal force which is acting on that, it lifts your liquid. So that is the impellers which we generally say. At a similar case which you have your runners or the vanes, which we say it as for your turbines. In the similar case, we generally say for the rotating blades in case of your centrifugal pumps as an impeller. Okay. And next, based on the number of impellers per shaft, where you have your single stage one or the multi-stage one, which have one impellers usually for the low lift one, and where you go with the multi-stage for the higher one, you have, based on that, you have your 2 or 3 impellers in that. Okay. And again, next you have your, based on the number of entrants of your impellers, where you have your single entry or maybe a multi entry. Based on that also you have a classification. And then finally you have your relative direction of flow through the impeller, which you have your radial flow and axial flow. In the case of your radial flow, you have normal radial flow, which are used in all case of centrifugal pumps, where in case of your axial flow is designed to deliver the huge quantities of water of your, when you compare with the low heads, which is the best example for that is you usually use it for the irrigation purposes. For that you require the large amount of the liquid to be handled over there. So that's the case, you go with an axial flow. The next you have the mixed flow pumps, the mostly which is implied a similar case of that to the axial one, which is used for the irrigation purposes. Okay. So let's move on. So this is about the basic classification of your centrifugal pump. This is very important topic, in which once or twice the question been asked in your exams, in which this can be expected for your short answer question, and this can also be expected for your long answer question. First, suppose if the case for the short answer question, just you need to classify based on the weightage of the question. If it is similarly asked for the long answer question, a little bit need to elaborate it for the 5 marks questions if it is being asked for the same one. Okay. I hope guys this is clear to you, and let's move on to the another one topic, and the same one is nothing but your coming to the working principle. This is very important. So as you can observe, the components or of the centrifugal pump over here, if you basically you go through the figure which is given over here, you will understand the components which is given over here is overhead tank, in which you have your overhead tank, and next you have your delivery pipe, and next you have your delivery valve, and next you have your flange and impeller. Just before I told you that this is your impeller, which is rotating blades one, and next you have vacuum gauge and suction gauge, and next you have your suction pump. Okay, so let us try to understand what is the working principle of your centrifugal pump. So here, which is given according to the figure, it's like there is a foot valve which is present over here. So your whatever which is there in your lower portion of your tank, which is stored over here, which removes your the strainer and all those things to the dust particles and all. So from here it collects the water and it flows on to your impeller one, which what is a major principle of the working over here is where you have your centrifugal force, which is generally created due to the centrifugal force which is generally created on this. It lifts the water from your lower head onto the the flange or the gauges which is present over here, and from here it enters onto your impeller vanes. So by this, due to the rotation of your impellers, the liquid which comes and hits onto those vanes, it comes in contact with this impeller blades, which rotates along with this impeller, and then it's lift the water from here, and it moves onto the delivery pipe which is present over here, and from this delivery pipe it moves on to the overhead tank. So here you have your different kinds of heads which is generally present, which we say it is like you have your section head which is generally present. The section head is nothing but the amount of the liquid which is generally present below the center axis of your impeller onto the ground level of water, which we say it as a section head. And we also have the delivery head, which is nothing but the amount of water which is present to deliver or which is ready to deliver, which is nothing but the above your center line of axis of your impeller, is nothing but which it as a delivery head. Okay, so coming to this, as we have different kinds of impellers, which we say it as a shrouded or the closed impellers, or we have your semi-open impellers or open impellers. So basically when you go with the shrouded or the closed impellers, what you have your vanes which is provided with a metal covered plates, and you shroud it on the both sides, talking about the impellers over here, and it provides a better guidance for the liquid, as it has the huge good efficiency when you compare it with the other kind of impellers one. And it is basically implied when you have your liquid to be pumped in a pure or maybe a relative free from dirt or maybe any kind of dust and all those things. So then in that case you go with the application of your shrouded or the closed impellers, and usually you use your vanes which is the backward vanes, which has much more efficiency than you compared with your forward vanes. Okay, and you have another one as a semi open impeller, where you have your impeller in which you have your vanes or the base plate and no crown plate on this case. So these impellers can be used even when you have your liquid comes with some kind of debris, where in the case of shrouded you do not have any kind of debris. So in this, some amount of debris can be provided in case of your semi-open and impellers. And you have another one is open impeller. The case of your open impeller, such as the vanes can neither be crown, or maybe you have your base plates in which it has been open on the both sides, and this kind of impellers is basically employed for the pumping of the liquids which contain suspended solid matters. Maybe you have your sewage or the paper or water containing sand or maybe acryl, this kind of applications you basically go with the open impellers. So these kind of impellers are used mainly in case of your irrigation applications and all those things when you go on. Okay, and coming to the casing, I'll just show you another one which you have your different kinds of casings, which in the below figure, where you have your wallet casing, the vortex casing and all those things. So, and you also have the casing with the guide blades one, and apart from this you also have your section pipe. So, and there's the section pipe which usually connects the center eye of your impeller to the sump from which your liquid is lifted, in which the liquid is lifted from here to that. We generally say it as a section pipe. Okay, and you have your delivery pipe which is at the top end one, So these pipe is actually it's connected to the lower end of your outlet of the pump, and it delivers the liquid to the required height, which is nothing but we generally say it as a delivery pipe. So apart from this, you also have the pressure gauge for monitoring of your pressure, whether in some cases you require the higher pressures to be present in order to lift your pump, or sometimes you require your low pressure. That all depends upon the gauge in which you can manage over here. And you have your valve. Sometimes if you want to close it and you do not want your water to be delivered, then you can rotate this delivery valve in the clockwise such a way, like it stops certain amount of flow which has to be delivered onto the any of the tank. Okay, so this is a basic working principle of your centrifugal pump. I hope this is clear to you. And next we'll move on to the kinds of the cases which you have over here. One is the vortex casing, and another one is you have your guide blades one. You also have another one as a volute casing. So basically we say it as the casing is nothing but your kind of a protecting guard which actually protects your water or maybe from any kind of dust. In a similar case which you have your casings in case of your turbines of your Francis or maybe a Pelton or your Kaplan turbine. In the case you have your same casing in case of your centrifugal pump, which is nothing but the airtight chamber which actually surrounds the pump impeller. Okay, so where you have your, what is the basic purpose of your casing is to guide the water to or from the impeller. Basic important thing is to guide the water. Okay, and next is to convert what your kinetic energy into potential energy. This is the another important application or the use of your casing. So in this again you have your volute casing, where you're coming to the volute casing, this the area of your flow gradually increases from your impeller. So in case of your volute casing and to the delivery pipe, as it reduces the velocity. As from the basic Bernoulli's principle, where you have your cross sectional area which is reducing, then you have your increase in velocity and your pressure gets dropped. Or where you are in cross section of areas increasing, then you have your kinetic energy which comes on, and your pressure will increase. At a cost of your kinetic energy, your pressure will be increased. Okay, so that's the basic example of your nozzles also, which you have your convergent nozzle and divergent nozzle. Okay, so and you have another type which is nothing but we say it as a vortex casing. It is also similar kind of the chamber which is provided between your impeller and your volute chamber. This casing is also it is similar kind which we say it as a well pulled chamber, such a way like you have your pump which is also we say it as a volute pump with a vortex chamber. So this also converts your kinetic energy into a pressure energy with a similar case, which is the application of your casings and all. So it further increases your pressure energy when you go on to the vortex casing one. The efficiency of your vortex casing is much better than when you compare on to your volute casing. And also you have another casing with your guide vanes. This is a basic example of the most applications of your pumps which we use your casings with the guide blades, where you have your it is surrounded by the series of guide blades which you have over here. This is all the series of the guide blades which is surrounded, and it is mounted, which is also known as a diffuser. Okay, the liquid leaving the impeller which passes through your passage between the guide blades and the velocity of your flow. So there is a decrease, and this kinetic energy is usually converted into the pressure energy. So the simple basic definition which we say it as a machines with diffuser blades have maximum efficiency, and also it is less satisfactory when you have a wide range of operation conditions. So these pumps, when you go with the guide blades one, was a little bit costlier when you compare with the vortex casing one. So these are about the different kinds of casings. Some or once or twice the question has been asked in a short answer also, what is the casing, what are the different kinds of casings we have. Okay, so guys, this is clear. Next we'll move on to the next one. This is the velocity triangles. This is a very important one. Coming to the velocity triangles one, So here if you can observe, these are your inlet triangles and these are your outlet triangles. So we are, so if you take the inlet velocity triangles, the velocity triangles for your centrifugal pumps are just a reciprocal of your Francis turbine inlet flow velocity triangles which you have. It's an exact opposite direction of that. So in the case of your what do you call Francis turbine, which you have your radial flow over there. So in that radial flow which you have your VW2, where you have your Brill velocities is equal to 0, because you do not have any kind of beta angle over there, where the beta is 0 over there. That's the case. You have your Brill velocity at the outlet to be 0. So that's the case in a similar case which you have your inlet velocity triangles as the similar one to the exactly opposite of that. Okay, so here VW1 will be equal to 0, because you do not have your Brill velocity over here, and you have your V1 is equal to Vf1, and this is your relative velocity in which your a liquid which comes and hits your veins, and this is your flow velocity which you have your perpendicular one, and this is your tangential velocity which actually comes and hits or which you also say it as an absolute velocity, which is V1. Okay, so this is your one of your vein in which which we say it as a backward veins. So once this liquid comes and hits its veins, and then it comes out with your different velocities which you have, so does V2 and VW2, where this V2 is nothing but your absolute velocity at the outlet, and this is your beta angle which is between your Brill velocity as well as your absolute velocity, and this is your phi angle, which is nothing but your velocity between the angle between your relative velocity as well as your absolute velocity. Okay, so from this suppose if you want to calculate any kind of angles over here, theta or maybe alpha or beta or phi, so anything you could find it based on the triangle law or the sine law. From this you can find if one of the parameter is given other parameter, which is easily you can find it from here. Okay, so the velocity triangles are very important. If these velocity triangles are clear to you, so the next problems which you are going to solve in case of your centrifugal pumps will be clear, or else it is very difficult to understand. Hope guys, once you go to the velocity triangles of your hydraulic turbines, of your Pelton wheel as well as your Francis turbine, so by that it gives you clear understanding. If you are clear with the Francis turbine velocity triangle, that is the similar reciprocal of that Francis turbine one. So hope this is clear. We'll also solve the numerical problems which is related to this one once we finish up the theory session. Okay, so let's move on with the next one, that is for the calculation. This is very important one. Coming to the calculation, where you have your calculation of your work done. So this is very important to calculate, as you know, based on that your force based on your Newton's second law, which is already we calculated Fx is equal to ma. Based on this, the impact of your jet of your vane which is coming and hitting your blade, you have your rate of change of momentum. Based on that, you have your final velocity minus initial velocity, where you have rho a v square. So from that, if you calculate your force Fx, then you can calculate your work done, where your work done is equal to Fx into u. So from this, in a similar case of your Francis turbine, which you have calculated all your work done, forces and all, in the similar case we can also calculate your work done from the same application, which is nothing but based on your Euler's equation. So from this you can calculate your momentum and torque, where torque is nothing but rate of change of momentum. So from that you have your initial momentum and final momentum. So where your initial momentum is 0, because we are considering when you at the starting point to be 0, and when it comes and finally hits the vane, that we consider it as a final momentum, or maybe based on your final velocity, we generally calculate all this momentum, where it is W by G into VW2 into R2, where you also have your torque, which is similar to that, because it's final minus initial one, where you have your initial as 0. So based on this, once you calculate your torque, you can also calculate your work done, where you have your work done is nothing but the torque into angular velocity, where the torque, which is already we have calculated from here, angular velocity is nothing but the omega. Once you substitute over here, then you get the work done, which is very important. Once work done is known, And next we are trying to calculate the work done per unit weight of liquid. That is nothing but, if you calculate over this, ww will be cancelled from here, then you will get the vw2 into u2 by g. That is nothing but, so it is work done per unit weight of liquid. Sometimes in a problem they will ask you only work done per second, or sometimes they may ask you to calculate the work done per second per unit weight of liquid. So in that, sometimes you will without in any hurry, you will just forget to, no, I will substitute your w value, and also you'll calculate that. So be very sure about your work done per second, or maybe a work done per unit weight of liquid. So, and the next is, if you want to calculate where you have your assuming the flow of inlet to be radial, when your vw2 is equal to 0, or if it is not radial, then your flow will be such a way like w by g into vw2 into u2 minus vw1 into u1. Most of the cases your flow will be radial. That's the case your vw1 will be 0 in the case of your centrifugal pumps, and vw2 will be 0 in case of your Francis turbine. So, and from here, if you want to calculate your work done per second per unit weight of liquid, in the similar case, if your flow is not radial one, then this would be a formula. And once work done is known, then you can calculate your power, that is work done per, by 1000, that gives you your power. Okay, so this is also nothing but we say it as a Euler's equation 1, or the Euler's head, which we say it as. Okay, I hope this is clear for the calculation of your work done, power and all. So when we solve some kind of numerical problems, that will be much easy to understand for you, such a way like based on the formulas whatever we used in different cases of that, it will be easy for you. So let's move on to the next one, the efficiency, calculation of efficiency. This is very very important topic one. So in this the efficiency, you have three different kinds of efficiency. One is manometric efficiency, another one is volumetric efficiency, another one is mechanical, and next you have your overall efficiency. So coming to this, when you have your efficiencies, in the case of the hydraulic turbines, in a similar case we have learned previously, was the efficiency of your what called shaft water power efficiency, the mechanical efficiency, and hydraulic efficiency, as well as overall efficiency in the case of the turbine. So in case of your turbines, where initially you have your hydraulic efficiency, where the hydraulic efficiency is nothing but the amount when the liquid enters and it transfers some amount of energy onto your runners, then you have your power which is transferred from your water power to the runner power one. So where your water power efficiency is much greater than your runner power, so in the case of hydraulic turbine, you have your efficiency of your hydraulic as nothing but runner power by water power, because efficiency is less than 1, where your runner power will be less than your water power. So, and next after that you have your another one, which we say it as your mechanical efficiency, where from that runner power, this is again transferred your power from that onto your what do you call shaft. So from that your shaft power is obviously less than when you compared with your runner power. So coming to the mechanical efficiency is nothing but your shaft power to runner power. So next you have your overall efficiency, where in the case of your overall efficiency, which is nothing but where you have the later of your shaft power once it has been transferred, and we have your initial as your water power. So it is a ratio of your shaft power onto your water power. So that is nothing but we say it as an overall efficiency. And a similar case, if you have your compare your you have your overall efficiency is also nothing but your product of mechanical efficiency as well as your hydraulic efficiency. So in a similar case, when you compare to your efficiency in the case of your centrifugal pumps, where in the case of your hydraulic turbines was the power producing one, so centrifugal pumps is your power absorbing device one. So obviously your centrifugal pumps is just a reciprocal for the case of your hydraulic turbines one. So for the centrifugal pumps, if you want to calculate your what do you call this efficiency, you should come in a reverse order for that. So in that, if you want to calculate the efficiency of your turbine, just a moment. just give me 1 minute. Sorry for the delay in between. So here you have your okay, here you have your main one as a manometric efficiency. Basically we say it as a manometric efficiency, nothing but is a ratio of your manometric head which is developed by the pump to the head which has been imparted onto the impeller. So here you have your figure, if you can observe over here, you have your shaft power, and next you have your impeller power, and next you have your output power, and next you have your delivery exit. So when you just compare, your shaft power is higher than when you compare with your impeller power, and next you compare to your casing exit or what output power, and next you have your static power or maybe your delivery exit. So initially when you switch on your pump, where you have your electric energy which is nothing but which has been transferred onto the shaft, which you have your higher one, the shaft power, which has been transferred this energy onto the impeller one, which is nothing but it makes your runner impeller blades to rotate. By that, some amount of power will be transferred onto the impeller one. So these impeller power will be obviously, if it is less than the shaft power, there will be some kind of loss in between, and again from here it has been transferred onto the output power, where due to the which converts into the hydraulic one from your mechanical one. So this is done in your casing exit. So this amount of power which is generally present over here is less than this, because there is again some kind of loss which is generally present. So what are the losses which is generally present, we will learn in the next one after this. And the next you have your delivery one, which is transferred from here on to this delivery pipe. So at the later case of the end your power will be less than when you compared with the initial cases. So here you have your major one is a manometric efficiency. This manometric efficiency is nothing but a ratio of your manometric head to head imparted by the impeller one. So this manometric efficiency can be written as G into H M by VW2 into U2. So this is nothing but your manometric efficiency. And so next you have your another one, also we say it is a volumetric efficiency. Volumetric efficiency is nothing but the ratio or the quantity of the liquid which has been discharged, which comes and hits onto your impeller one. The actual amount of the water which is coming and hitting onto the impeller may not hit directly the same quantity. There will be some amount of water which may be discharged directly back onto. So this, if you compare, so the quantity of liquid which is generally hitting, that we generally consider as a ratio to the actual one as a volumetric efficiency. So if you basically write your volumetric efficiency, so this volumetric efficiency can be written as Q by capital Q plus small q. This is nothing but we generally say it as a volumetric efficiency. So this volumetric Q is nothing but the actual liquid which is discharged, and small q is nothing but some kind of leakage which you have, that we consider it as a small q. Okay. And next you have your another one is a mechanical efficiency. Mechanical efficiency is nothing but is the ratio of the power which is delivered by the impeller to the liquid to the power input to the pump shaft, nothing but which is that is a mechanical efficiency. So how this mechanical efficiency could be written as, so if you write your mechanical efficiency over here, sorry, I would write over here the mechanical efficiency. So if you write your mechanical efficiency over here, it would be like W into Q plus P into VW, so VW2 into U2 by G by P. So this would be your actually your mechanical efficiency, and from this if you make your simple substitution, then you would get like your mechanical efficiency to be P minus P M by P. So this would be your actual mechanical efficiency. And next you have your overall efficiency. So from this, if you want to write your overall efficiency, is nothing but your power output of your pump to the power input to your pump is nothing but your overall efficiency, where your overall efficiency can be written as W into Q into H into M by P. This can be written as your overall efficiency, or you can also write your overall efficiency as the product of your manometric efficiency into volumetric efficiency into mechanical efficiency. This is a product of all. And next, coming on to, so this is all about your efficiency. Hope this is clear to you. And next you have your losses, which I have discussed before. Related to this, we have a different concept losses, where you have your hydraulic losses. Here you have your apart from the hydraulic losses, maybe your mechanical losses and leakage losses. When you have your hydraulic losses, you have shocks or maybe eddy losses and losses due to the friction, or maybe a friction and eddy loss. And you have your friction and another minor losses and frictional, and that is in your case of your section pipe. You have some minor losses, and you have your some other losses in your delivery pipe, and you have your mechanical losses maybe due to the friction with the major one, and that we say it as a friction loss due to head. And next you have your losses which is pertaining to the friction in the main bearing. So, and maybe some kind of other leakage loss also. So this all putting to the losses, your efficiency of your pump may come down maybe onto 40 or 45%. Okay, so this is about your pump losses. And next we move on to the next one, as we say it as a head, which is already we have discussed before. We have three different kinds of heads. This is most important one, which is asked in the exams also. In case of your heads, head is nothing but you have your static head, which you have your impeller over here, and this head is nothing but static head. And next you have your delivery head, which is nothing but your HD over here, which is onto the center line above to that which you deliver is nothing but your delivery head. So some of your section head and delivery head is also known as static head. And manometric head is nothing but the head which is against with the centrifugal pump has to work, is nothing but we say it is a manometric head, which is very important, which is already we have learned about that. And next is gross head or effective head, which is nothing but equal to static head plus all your head losses which is occurring maybe due to the friction or maybe other losses which you put together, which is a total gross head. Okay, so this is about the losses or maybe your heads. And next we move on to the other one, is nothing but the advantages of your centrifugal pumps over your reciprocating pump. See, there are a lot of advantages. You have your centrifugal pump, then you on to the reciprocating pump, where maybe your discharge capacity is much greater than that of your reciprocating pumps, or maybe it is a compact and small, in a size and maybe onto the weight. And also the major important one is performance obviously is more greater than your reciprocating pumps, and it can be employed for lifting of highly viscous liquids, or maybe muddy or sewage or other different kinds, or maybe it is operated at very higher speeds without any danger of separation, and you don't have the major problem of your cavitation and all. It can be directly coupled to the electrical motor, and also the torque or maybe your power source which you have, it is very uniform than when you compare with the centrifugal pump. So these are a lot of advantages which will list out more. This can be asked in your exam, which is most important when you go on, okay, for your exams, right? This is about the advantages of your centrifugal pump over the reciprocating pump. And next is we have priming is nothing but where initially if you start your pump, switch on your motor for your working of your pump, so some amount of the air leakages which is generally present in that pump would not allow your water to be lifted initially. So if you want to remove that or to lift your water, initially you need to remove some kind of air which is generally sucked or present in that. So these kind of operation we generally say it as a priming, the operation of filling the section pipe, the casing of the pump, and the portion of your delivery pipe completely from outside source, the liquid to be raised before starting the pump, or to remove any kind of air or gases or vapor generally present of this parts, is generally say it as a priming of centrifugal pump. So basically, what is the requirement of a priming? If the centrifugal pump is not primed before starting, the air pockets or maybe inside the impeller may give rise to vortices, and it may cause discontinuity of flow, or maybe further it may be dry running of the pump, or maybe it results in rubbing and seizing of bearing rings, and it may also cause a severe damage. Okay, so that basically the priming is very very important topic, which is most number of times which has been asked in your exam. What is priming, why it is required to have your priming in centrifugal pump, basically where do you have your priming, in which pumps you have your priming. These are all the different kinds of questions which you can expect in the exam. And next you have your cavitation and NPCH. This topic is actually, it is not listed in your syllabus part, but sometimes some kind of questions which is asking in your exam, so why you give a chance. So let us try to understand or learn about the cavitation also, so that it will be very easy for you to, if any kind of question which has been asked in the exam, you would be able to answer it. So let us try to understand what is cavitation first. Cavitation is nothing but when you have your pressures which is coming below the vapor pressure, which your pressure is keep on falling down, then some kinds of bubbles will be formed when you are having any kind of flow which is taking place. These bubbles suddenly which gets collapsed, and you have your kind of noise. Generally we say it as a cavitation. This cavitation is usually present in your hydraulic turbines. In the case of your draft tubes, where you have your draft tubes which has been fixed onto your reaction turbines itself. It is not the case of your Pelton wheel turbine, because you have only kinetic energy present over there. There is no pressure energy. So in the case of Francis turbine or maybe a Kaplan turbine, you have your reaction turbines, which is you have your kinetic energy as well as potential energy. So your pressures which will be coming down over there. So there you have your cavitation which arises. Or maybe in case of your centrifugal pumps also, when you have your pressure which is coming down onto the impeller sometimes, so in that case also you have your cavitation which arises. Okay, so let us understand over here. The cavitation begins to appear in a centrifugal pump when your pressure at the section falls below the vapor pressure of the liquid. The intensity of the cavitation increases with this is very 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 important point to learn over here. The cavitation increases with a decrease in the value of NPCH. So NPCH is a very 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 important one, where to understand here the effect of your cavitation is nothing but if your cavitation in a pump, if you have a sudden drop in efficiency, and your power requirement will come down, and it may also impose some limitations on your flow rate and your speed of your rotation of your pump also. If you list out your harmful effects on this, you have your petting, or maybe erosion, sudden drop in your head, or maybe noise and vibration. These are all the things also which comes across when you have your cavitation. So NPCH is nothing but a kind of factor where you have your cavitation parameter to be measured over there. So if your NPCH is coming down, or if it is increasing, then there is an effect of your cavitation on. In the case of your NPCH is nothing but we say it's a net positive section head. If your NPCH is decrease in then your cavitation will increase. So how do you measure your cavitation? NPCH is nothing but based on your Thomas cavitation factor which you have your NPCH. So if you take this NPCH, where it is written as sigma is equal to ns by ns section, or and whole power 4/3, where ns is nothing but your section speed. So sigma is nothing but your Thomas cavitation factor. Based on this, you have your NPCH factor for your cavitation one, which you can also write which you can also write like NPSH divided by H is equal to ns by ns man whole power 4/3. So this is also one of the factor where you have your NPCH. Based on this, you will be having your cavitation factors. Okay, so this is about your cavitation. So let's stop it over here, and in the next session we will be going through your reciprocating pump. I hope this session is clear, and after this, once we finish your theory part related to reciprocating pumps also, I'll go through the numerical problems related to this. Okay, I'll stop it over here. Thank you for the session.